Welcome back to MG Marine Tech. Today we are going to be covering a topic that I see asked about all the time: the best side imaging settings for your unit, your transducer. Today we are going to be covering side imaging on a GT54 transducer, but do not worry, subscribe, stay tuned, because in the future we are going to be doing other videos just like this for down imaging, 2D sonar, but also on other transducers such as the GT56. Hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and give this video a thumbs up. Let me know I'm doing a good job. It's much appreciated. Lets me know what you guys want to see. First things first, good settings on a unit are just as good as the installation on a unit. I'm not going to dive into all the details on this, but there's some things you can do to really help yourself. And one, make sure your transducer is mounted properly. There are a ton of videos on YouTube for this. And two, make sure you don't have any electrical gremlins. And what I mean by that is your unit is getting proper voltage, not getting any interference. I've got some videos covering ways to get around that. A couple of things before we dive into these settings. One, I'm going to run this video a couple of different ways. First off, I'm going to give you guys that don't want to stick around for this whole video a list of all the settings that I use. I give these out to people all the time, and they seem to work really well for people. But for those of you that want to stick around and learn more, we are going to be diving into all these settings, showing you what they do, a little bit of the differences on simulator mode. Unfortunately, we won't make it out onto the water tonight, but simulator mode does a decent job of showing you guys what they do anyways. And you'll be able to hear me much better than out on the water. Also, I'm going to explain where to use these settings. Now, there are limitations to this. This video is going to be basically on achieving the best picture with the GT54 transducer, and it comes with its limits. What I mean by that is you're really only going to be able to get to about 50 foot of water before these settings become kind of useless and not so great. And that is not a product of really the settings, but more so a product of the transducer. And this is where the GT56 really comes in and starts to shine, because you're able to really open up your range with the GT56. Enough about that. Let's dive into the GT54 side imaging settings. Well, first thing, we're gonna have to bring up side view, and we are not on simulated mode right now, but I wanted to show you the first and most important setting, and that is switching to 1120 kilohertz. And to do that, very simple, bring up your side imaging, hit your menu button, and then go to your frequency and hit 1120 kilohertz. It is that simple to get it switched over, and you can see I am reading 1120 kilohertz. But from here on out, we are going to switch over to simulator mode just to kind of show you a little bit on what these individual settings will do, and let's do that right now. We have simulator mode working away, and one of the most crucial things that I can tell you guys is to set up your screen properly for side imaging. And what I mean by that is creating the correct combo, or just running your side imaging with it running all the way across the screen. Now, some of you run it like this, which is just fine. Keep doing it however you want to do it, but if you want to get the best side imaging picture, this is what you want to do. Rearrange this combination, and if you're curious about that, I've got another video dedicated just on combos, and I cover this topic in that. But you can run the same exact combo in another format, just like so, and you will really start to get a lot more detail in your side imaging, purely based on running your side imaging all the way across your screen. And before we dive into these settings, simulator mode is a recording. Some of these features won't really work. As you can see, if I change my range to 150 foot, it is not going to load it because it was recorded in a certain range. Just a forewarning on that. Let's dive into these side imaging settings. To get to them, hit your menu, and it brings up your side imaging menu, and you have all your different options to choose from. I'm going to just cover the main ones that are going to bring you guys the best impact, best results. And the first off the bat is contrast. Contrast, I run anywhere from around 70 to 80%. The more contrast you give it, the brighter things get, and you start to lose a little bit of detail in here. And this is the setting that I change most of the time while I'm out on the water. It can even change hourly while you're out on the water, different depths of water. This is the setting that I change 99% of the time. I leave everything else the same. and here is what I'm looking for. On side imaging, harder bottoms will return brighter, or harder objects will return brighter, whereas softer objects, bottoms, etc. will return darker. So as you can see in here, this is a very hard bottom, whereas this over here is a little bit softer. At 81% right now, we are starting to lose a little bit of detail in this hard bottom. I can bring this down and pick up some of the detail that was previously washed out. Again, good starting point is anywhere from 70 to 80%. But again, I play with this setting all the time while I'm on the water, and it's something that you guys should adjust to your liking as well. Second setting you will come across is brightness. Now with the GT54 in 1120 kilohertz, I find that brightness needs to be at 100% all of the time, no matter on the depth of water, etc. So don't even worry about that, but I will show you what happens when you start to lower it. Now you can see we're scanning 60 foot to the side of the boat. If I go down, look how fast you start to lose range. We're already about to 45 foot not being able to see it, and we're only at 90% brightness. As I go down, it gets worse and worse. Keep that brightness up at 100 and you will keep that range about as far out as it will go. Which brings us to range. Now again, with the GT54 on 1120 kilohertz, the maximum range that I will recommend is anywhere from 60 to 70 feet, and that is purely because the GT54 in 1120 kilohertz is not really going to penetrate much water past 60 feet, but this all depends again on water depth and the hardness of the bottom. Sometimes you might be able to stretch it a little bit further than that, but I find 70 feet is about the furthest it will go out. Another thing to keep in mind with the range is that the more range that you run, the more information you are packing onto the same size screen, so things become smaller and smaller, harder and harder to see. Whereas the less range that you run, you kind of magnify things. Things become bigger on the screen. You've got more pixels dedicated to smaller things on the screen. They become easier to see. Use that wisely, but the maximum range that I will run is 70 feet with the GT54. Now, this is a setting that I typically don't give to people, and that is the zoom setting. Now, under your zoom setting, there are a couple of different options. You have auto, manual, magnify. I keep auto and manual off. I see people get their screen screwed up all the time where they can't see anything, and this is most of the reason why. But the one I use is magnify, and what magnify will allow you to do is pinch the screen, brings up a box. You can magnify that area to see, and you can, move it all around the screen. It's pretty handy, really cool for screenshots, and then you can unpinch it to get rid of it. That's what the magnify setting does. For the rest of the settings, you have to go into your sonar setup tab, and this will bring up, depth, line, scroll speed, all this other stuff. But the important ones in here are scroll speed, so let's dive into that one. Scroll speed, I keep it on auto all of the time, and I might get a lot of flack for this because a lot of guys like to jack it way up and see the screen going by really, really quickly, and there is a time and a place for this, but I've got a couple of reasons why I keep it on auto. One, these units have built-in GPS, so they know how fast they are going. The guys at Garmin are a lot smarter than I am. They have figured out what scroll speeds work well for how fast that your unit is moving. I find that 10 will work only if you're moving really, really fast, whereas if you are on 10 and moving slow, things will come really, really distorted. But like I said, it has its time and its place. I don't really like it, so that's why I keep it on auto. Let's talk about color schemes. There are a ton of options for color schemes. The classic ones, all the way up to the new ones, which are in the latest updates. But I have found for my eyes that amber is my favorite. And the reason being is that I find that a lot of these other color schemes make things very grainy. As you can see, this black shadow over here has a lot of grain in it, and I don't like that. It's kind of confusing to my eyes. Whereas amber kind of smooths that out, makes it not so so grainy to my eyes. Things that need to pop out really well. But again, you can play with this setting, what works best for your eyes and your body of water. This can change depending on the water that you are in. So play around with this setting, find out what works best for you. The last couple of settings are advanced settings, so you need to go to your advanced tab, and these are interference and TVG. Now unfortunately, in simulator mode, TVG will not show you exactly what it's going to do, nor interference, but for interference I usually keep this off or low. 90% of the time I am off, I'll keep it right there. And TVG, I run this on low 99% of the time. Now with TVG, if you turn this off, your water column and everything else is going to get brighter, but you're going to have some more clutter in here in your water column. Now if you turn it to low, it's going to get just a shade darker. Your water column is going to clear up a little bit, and so will your bottom, and as you go up it'll get darker and darker, so keep that in mind. 99% of the time for the water that I fish, TVG is set on low. I set it and forget about it. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Those are the settings that I give out all the time. It seems to really help out a lot of people when it comes to side imaging on the GT54 transducer. The factory settings are pretty good, but I think these go above and beyond just a little bit. Helps people clean up their images, and I hear it all the time. Now, I'm not going to go as far to say they are the best settings, because there is no such thing as best settings. These are just a general starting point for your GT54 transducer. It seems to help out quite a few people. Give them a shot. Drop a comment down below. Hit that subscribe button, because like I said, we are going to be doing the same thing for 2D sonar down imaging, not only for the GT54 but also for the GT56. And again, stay tuned for more tips and tricks on MG Marine Tech.